Hey guys, time for ED2. As I promised in the last video, I was going to do ED2 and ED3 in the same manner I did ED1. I've said in a bunch of comments that I wanted some warm-up speed to get more into pace with this dungeon because I haven't been doing a lot of it lately. That ended up not being the case. I've done a couple Slayer tasks today, and I think this was the 4th or 5th hour or something, and I just felt like this was a consistent enough pace and method to show it off to people and explain what I'm doing. So ED2 is a little bit different from the others. One thing that's kind of relevant to know is that ED1 has 1 million total less damage to deal, like including all mobs and all the bosses and everything. You have 1 million damage less to deal in ED1 than you do ED2 and ED3. So by nature, ED1 is going to be faster because there's less damage to deal throughout the entire thing. Now ED2 is also different because it has more single target situations or like small amounts of target situation with higher HP. So you want to be doing a more continuous damage rotation that also involves your special attack planning and your ultimates and even your Drempots. The reason for that is because of the nature of the mobs, that you need to treat the entire dungeon like it's one long boss fight pretty much, and that will sort of pick up a pace. In the most damage heavy areas where you have a lot of monsters with a lot of high HP bars, if you place your sunshines and your like dragon sigils and your FSOA specs in my case around that, this is going to help you a lot with clearing those areas quicker, and that will save you a lot of time big picture. Gear wise, I'm doing something very similar to what I had in Temple of Amnesia. I just have a leg switch that I have a different perk set up for. So I have a superior serial row bottom that I put Dragon Slayer on. Normally, this kind of depends as well. If you want to be using Slayer tasks for DPS, then you want Genocidal as well. I don't need it because I have a biting for Genocidal that I made for Carapac. So I have Genocidal and Dragon Slayer on my armor pieces, but if this was just a purely ED2 piece and you didn't have the Genocidal combo, then you want to have Dragon Slayer Genocidal instead of Invigorating here. Or you could get Invigorating Genocidal and skip the mobile. It's sort of up to you. Otherwise, everything is pretty standard. I have my ABS amulet. I have my Samurok staff or G staff, whichever one, doesn't really matter. I have a Caraming switch. I have a flank switch, but I don't really use it. I have my Dominion mines, because those are useful on some of the high life point mobs in here, and you also use them on the Black Hands during BSD. I have a dummy, and I have my Excel pots and some lucky charms just for those Claven wingtips and like extra loot. And if I sound like shit, it's because my girlfriend and I got COVID, and I've been homesick for a couple days. I'm fine. I have a fever, and I'm a little bit out of it, but I'm completely fine. Just need to relax, and my throat is a little bit messed up. So now I'm going into the dungeon and starting my first run. I'm also starting a timer so you can track the progression and how long it takes me to do the different points. First thing I'm doing is I'm great at chaining and then omnipowering some of these jellies. You need to clear 4 of these jellies to progress to the next barrier, so I'm just using AoE abilities and the chained omnipower to deal as much damage as I can to many targets. I try to finish that room with reasonably high reasonably high adren. Then I run into this area on the staircase, on the square adjacent to the wall next to me. I sunshine. The reason for that is because the sunshine is going to stretch across the wall, and I can use it to reach the dragons on the other side of the barrier as well. So I just kill these 2 dragons. 3 of them, I guess, tank whatever remaining jellies, because I don't really bother dealing with them. And then I just use the same principle here. I try to distribute my damage across the 3 different dragons as well I can. It really depends on how they're standing. This is going to be different spawns, so they're not all the exact same, but just distribute your big abilities across the different high HP targets. Because I have a Slayer task, I also use my first Tuska's Wrath here for a free 15k damage on one of the dragons. Then I run into this corner of the bridge, target one of the lava golems. I start with throwing down my AoE abilities, my 2 bleeds, and like the Magma Tempest and Corruption, and then I just dump out a wild magic. Searchblade, I dive over here, target the Celestial Dragon. You need to kill the Celestial Dragon and 2 mobs, so I chain the dragon and then asphyxiate. That way I beat the dragon's stun mechanic, but I also deal the full asphyxiate damage to 2 of these adjacent jellies. Clean those up with whatever you want, Magma Tempest in my case, then run over here and do a Sunshine. I fucked this sun up, I didn't use Planted Feet. Or at least I think I didn't. No, I did. Okay, well, I fucked this sun up anyway, and ended up not having any sun when I got down the staircase. But the point here is to just clean these 3 dragons, as quick as you can. Then run down the stairs, use the rest, like the final seconds of that sun, to omnipower one of the dragons below the stairwell, because you need to kill one of those to open the next barrier. This is one place that you can drop the minion mines, because they will attack the Celestial Dragons. So yeah, I would run to this square, but my sun was up, so it didn't matter. And I just omni-nuke this guy. Run through the barrier and kill one of these dragons as well. And try to go into Astellarn with as high adrenaline as I can, because I want to do a big damage dump the first thing I do when I get into Astellarn. So we get into the Astellarn fight. Don't use your sun right away. Start with doing a threshold and an omnipower, and that way you will get him down to the soft cap and he will progress through his attack rotation. The reason for this is because Sunshine's 38-second duration is mostly not enough for an Astellarn fight. The fight is generally somewhere in like 40 to 42 seconds. So you want to delay the sun a little bit. So I just do the P1 normally, and then I sun and A-put when I'm doing the pulsar. I plant a black hole along one of these lines here in the center of the area, so I'm right in between 2 quadrants. Then I tsunami FSOA, go back into the white hole, use my Dragon Slayer sigil for some damage, and I do a Tendril into an Omnipower. That pretty much clears the boss. The remainder of my FSOA spec is going to be used on this first dragon here, so I'm just doing him normally. And then clear the second dragon and progress through the next barrier. When you get down here, there's 2 ways to go, because there are 2 gates to the next area. I choose the northwestern one, the one that's a little bit farther away, because I don't want to deal with the spiders. There is a method where you can Surge Blade a dive in a single tick across that entire area, end up behind the strike worms at the southern barrier, and just avoid the spiders altogether. ED2 is pretty laggy though, because really poor optimization, and sometimes that doesn't work, so you choose which one you want to do. When I get to this area with the first 4 dragons, I separate my different power amplitudes or power boosters that I have with me. I use my FSOA for this first region, and then I save my Sunshine and my Adren pot for the second region. First region contains 4 dragons, so I figured the FSOA just helping with a couple of extra auto attacks every time I crit is kind of nicer. This is also where you can use your second Tuska's Wrath. So now I'm getting into the area with the 6 dragons. Here I want to move to somewhere reasonably central in the area and plant a sun. Depending on how fast the dungeon is gone, my Adren pot is usually ready about this point. It can have a couple seconds left on it, but yeah, sun and A-pot this time, and it will be ready again for Veroclith, where the next A-pot dose is going to be. So here I'm just doing a sun tsunami rotation and clearing the dragons as best I can. What you do here is going to depend largely on how the dragons move. They do spawn in different places, and you're not always going to be able to use the same kind of AoEs on them. But Greater Chain is your friend here, and otherwise just distribute your hard-hitting thresholds across the different mobs, so you don't like Omnipower something with 3k HP left. Run past the first 2 strike worms, kill these 2, and try to finish these 2 strike worms at reasonably high adren, because you want to be doing another Sunshine pretty soon. Run over to the barrier. Plant another sun. That way you get the sun boost on the remaining 2 strike worms and the first 3 dragons in the next room. It's the same thing there. I can use my chain here to spread the omnipower across the different dragons just because they ended up being in a favorable position. This doesn't always happen. And looking at my Tuska's Wrath cooldown, this is where I can place my third one of those and finish this dragon. Now you can either drop a dummy here if you need a Dren, but I try to finish that room with higher Dren so I can just run straight in for Veraclith. Sometimes you're lucky and you have the mini-boss there that you can build a Dren on, but that doesn't always happen. When I run in here, first thing I want to do is Smoke Cloud and Vuln the boss, then I drop an Omnipower, a Wild Magic, and then I improvise for a little bit. I want to finish P1 with fairly high Adren, because the next thing I'm going to be doing is Sunshining as soon as the Spire comes up. The reason for that is because I want the continuous window to be as long as possible for my FSOA rotation. As soon as the Spire comes up, I Sun on the Spire, I Adren pot, and then I do a normal Tsunami into FSOA build. I improvise my Adren up a little bit, and then I use my Dragon Slayer Sigil as soon as I start the Tendrils. So now I'm alternating my Thresholds and my Armadial Battlestaff special attacks with the EOF. And whenever I'm lacking Adren, I just switch over to Concentrated Blast and build some Adren back up, and then keep alternating Thresholds and ABSs and hope to clear them as much as I can of the boss. Now the boss can die in that first window, as you saw by my timer going red, but it's not something I've been able to do very consistently. So I just I try to do the Omnipower in the FSOA rotation reasonably early so that I have another Omnipower that I can throw at him now for the finishing phase here. Even though the sub ones do happen, I'd say the normal time that you'll be getting on casual Veraclith runs if you're using this strategy is somewhere in the neighborhood of 120. Here I just use this mini-boss to build a little bit of a Dren, because I want to Sunshine when I get into the next room. You don't have to do this if you finish higher than I did. I teleport back. And I run through the first Gemstone area into the room with the 4 Gemstone Dragons that I need to deal with to open the barrier. This is where I'm going to be doing my Sun. So I'm dropping my Sun, dropping 2 mines because they attack these dragons. It's free 20k damage. Then I build up a little bit. And as soon as I have sufficient Adren and the dragons are in a nice place adjacent to each other, I drop a chain into an Omnipower and try to clear as much HP as I can. I also use the Dragon Slayer Sigil to boost that Omnipower a bit. Usually that takes care of the room. These 2 I mostly improvise. There's just 2 of them, so I haven't bothered devising an actual plan for it. I usually have remainder FSOA spec from the previous Sun build, so that helps a little bit. But you can do whatever you want with these 2. I run through this area. I use my Excel pot to Surge Blade a dive across the chasms. I fucked that one up there, but that's fine. Go into the next area with these 2 dragons and improvise on them as well. About now you should be able to use your last Tuska's Wrath ability. I normally save it for the dragons that are over by the bank. And whenever you're doing this, pay close attention to the Hydrix dragons so you never get caught in their special attack. You don't want that happening. It's not devastating by any stretch of the imagination, but it is really annoying and it does take a little while to clear. Kill these 2. And then when you see this barrier open up, you just either run straight in or you reload your preset depending on how you're doing on food and supplies. I'm going to go straight in because I was doing fine. So for BSD, I'm surging in, planting my mines, and I'm going over and doing a Naked Sun. So I'm not using my Adren potion for this build because I want to use the Adren pot when the hands are dead. Getting up to Tsunami and then into FSOA. At this point, if you need it, you can use your Limitless Sigil, because it's probably going to be ready for the next time you need it. So there I'm just clearing P1, Volning the first hand, and then I'm dumping whatever I have left with my FSOA spec and my crit building Tsunami buff still up, using the rest of the sun on these first two hands. I search through the dragon, go to the western safe spot, which is exactly on this part of this little dial indicator where I'm standing now. That way the black hands can't touch you. Do another Omnipower on one of these hands, and then I improvise my way through the next one. Now my mines are off cooldown, so I can just search over to this hand from the safe spot, place 2 mines, and then run back again, so I don't have to worry about where my footing is. This is also a good spot to be for the coming sun. When this hand is down to about 15k, I start my Sunshine, I add Renpot, this is where you wanted it for. Then I turn to the Blackstone Dragon, Tsunami, and FSOA. And then I start with Wild Magic into the same improvisation as normal, alternating ABSs with my thresholds. And I don't do my Omnipower until the Circle of Light animation has begun, because you don't want to kill the dragon too fast there. If you reach 260k before the light circle begins, it will go straight to flying. But this way I'm doing all of the 500k damage before the dragon starts flying, and I just kill the dragon and finish the dungeon there in about 13 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, this dungeon is kind of not like ED1, you're not gonna make like guaranteed money here. We're in a good spot right now as of February 2022. If someone watches this a year from now, please don't. But, you know, where draconic energies are really high because magic is dominating the game right now, so the elite tectonic set is very valuable, and draconic energies are somewhere around, I think, like 500k. And actually, we can just go sell one of these and see how much it sells for. You're going to be getting a similar amount of draconic energy as you do the energies in ED1. I think the average is about 15 per run, give or take. And then you also have a 1 in 100 chance per boss of the relevant codex drops per boss. So that will be the Flurry, Fury, and Barge. These are extremely valuable right now. Draconic energy at 592k. So you'll be making money doing ED2 for a change. It used to be really, really terrible with the comments being super bad, but now it's kind of worthwhile. And for an estimate of what a log could look like, I've done 600 group runs and 681 solo runs. I have 17 flurries, 12 furies, and 12 barges, and 11,258 draconic energy. But yeah, that would be everything I have to say about ED2, pretty much. It's going to be a little bit slower than ED1 for the reason I explained at the beginning of the video, but if you can burn it down to about 4 kills an hour, then you can comfortably do your Reapers. It's also, in my opinion, one of the places in the like mid-range game that's pretty good to learn to get really good at, because it's pretty good at DPS practice in really versatile situations. So good luck with ED2, and see you in the ED3 video.